are back. It is your host, Isaiah. Welcome to the O&B Puckcast, episode number 270. And we are looking forward finally to some Flyers hockey. Yeah, albeit a rookie game on Friday and Saturday. We'll talk more about that. We're brought to you by FlyersNittyGritty.com, Summit Adjusters, Jim South Street, and of course, now we're featured on the most exciting hockey forum website, hockeyhotstove.com. Just go to the home page. You can either click on the Flyers logo or scroll all the way down. You'll see the insignia for the O&B Puckcast. Click on that, and you'll get all of our YouTube shows. And, of course, tonight we are live streaming on YouTube as well as X and Facebook. So, subscribe, like, hit that notification bell, all that stuff. And we really do appreciate it. So let's go to the panel. Chef B, you are the man who's going to give us your opening thoughts about some of this hockey that's coming up this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be interesting to see. I mean, you've got a lot of young, dynamic players, especially at rookie camp. It's going to be really fun to see what these guys can do, what these kids can do, I should say. And I just wait. I'm chomping at the bit. I'm waiting for Flyers hockey to start.
Fantastic. And of course, the great Dan Silver is back with us, along with, is it Connick?
Who?
The cat.
Oh. Well, no, the cat that just jumped up is David Rose.
Oh.
He's the male cat. His sister, Conathan, is sleeping on the, let's see. She's down there, if you can see her. On top of her nest area. So.
Okay,
and
just for those audio there, this is a cat-friendly podcast.
We're a
and adult-friendly too.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. The roster's fun. I made a little fantasy hockey trade this week. I got Zegras in the fold. We talk about that. Not that anyone cares, but I'm excited to see some of these rookies. There's a lot of the guys we drafted this year are going to be strutting their stuff, and we'll get a chance to see them. So. I'm excited. Let's get some hockey back.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we bring on our esteemed guest, I just wanted to draw your attention for the video watchers here to the Chiron. And at the very bottom, we have some information about Summit Adjusters. If you have property damage to your home, Chef, if you could just quickly tell us why people should call Summit Adjusters at the number listed below instead of just calling your insurance company.
Sure. You want to call Summit Public Adjusters because any wrong one word could get you denied on your claim. Is it a backup? Is it an overflow? Is it anything along those lines? Just one little slip of the tongue will put you in big trouble there because you could get your denied claim. And those guys are great. They've been in business 25 years. They have their license in PA, Delaware, New Jersey. They're coming to Maryland too. So I know we have some fans down there, some listeners down there. So that'll be great. So they get you more. They get you more for your home repairs than you would on your own. So call Summit Public Adjuster 215-752-0560. Tell them the chef sent you.
You got it. So without any further delay, the official site contributor for the Flyers, NHL.com. He's a content manager for the Flyers Alumni Association, of course. And he's one of the founders of HockeyHotStove.com. Our buddy Bill Meltzer. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing great, guys. Can't wait to get going finally. This offseason has felt endless. And then what's going to happen once we get into rookie camp and the rookie games – the start of camp is things are going to start going quickly because it's a very short rookie camp. And then when you turn around, you start having the NHL camp the following week. It's just a couple of days of practice until the first exhibition game. That's a big part of why players have to come in top shape now. Long gone are the days when players would go to camp and play their way into shape. They have to come to camp in shape. And I know every single player in that Flyers locker room, whatever their other opinions of John Tortorella were, are very, very, very happy the rope is gone.
That was going to be one of my questions, too.
The rope is gone. The kids are in this Thursday at 11 a.m. They have the two games on Friday and 7 p.m. at the PPL Center. They're back there on Saturday at 5 p.m. And then they take a day off Sunday, then Monday and Tuesday, and then rookie camp breaks and So, what's on your mind? Like, what players are you kind of spotlighting on your mind, in your mind, and what are you really excited about for this camp coming up?
Well, not the shameless plug here, but tomorrow on PhiladelphiaFlyers.com there will be an article on 11 players to watch in the camp. It'll be 10 position players, and no shot the goalie. There's only 2 in camp. Is Carson Bjarnason, but it'll be 11 players to watch in camp, and honestly, there's enough interesting players in camp that somebody like Samu Tumal didn't even make the list this year because he's already been in a couple of these camps. So, even though there will be some notable absences because of the college season, Porter Martone obviously being the most obvious guy, but there are other second round picks from this year. Cole Knuble can't be there because he's in college, but even so, there's a lot of interesting players there, and I like watching players on 2 different ends of a rookie camp. Guys who are in their first ever rookie camp, who are you're really just setting a foundation for where, a starting point for where you want to see them a year from now. Compare next year's rookie camp, next year's preseason to where they are now. A guy like Jack Nesbitt, for example, this is his first ever rookie camp. Had his first ever development camp. We all know that he has a lot to work on in upcoming years. But you really get a sense of the year-to-year improvement sometimes at these rookie camps where they are relative to the average player, I guess you would say, at some of these camps. In their first camp, second, there's a third, et cetera. I mean, Nesbitt's a guy who, of course, the Flyers moved up 10 spots to draft, had to beat out Nashville on him, had to beat out Vancouver on him. There was that big run on centers at the top of the draft this year. I believe off the top of my head, I think 9 of the first 12 picks were centers this year. So they were kind of running very thin on the list of the centers they liked, and that's also played into why they moved up. So he's the guy I definitely want to see. I want to see how Jett Luchanko is physically. The Flyers will see this week. They're not going to push it because he missed development camp with a groin strain. He missed the summer showcase with the same issue. He's feeling better, but sometimes if you push it too much too soon, you're coming off of a groin thing. It can lead to lingering kind of issues. So I would not be surprised at all, even if he checks out 100%, if he only plays in 1 of the 2 games this year. But that's the guy I want to see him last year compared to this year. And I'd like to see Alex Bump in rookie camp and then see him also in NHL camp, because that's the guy with a legitimate chance of making an NHL roster spot. So that's just a couple of names off the top of my head, but we could name any number of guys.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's not often that I look at the rookie camp roster and I say to myself, there's 7 guys that theoretically could have a shot at making the Flyers roster. It's very unlikely that some of these guys have a shot, but you look down the list and it's like, oh, Denver Barkey was the captain of the London Knights last year. Yep. Like, I really want to see what he can do. There's an outside chance he could make the team. Alex Bump, obviously, as Bill talked about, I mean, he's at this point basically expected to make the team. Nikita Grabenkin, I think it's going to be interesting to see what he can do in a situation like this. We don't know a whole lot about him at this point. Devin Kaplan, probably very unlikely he makes the team, but you never know as a depth winger. Jett Luchanko, who Bill just talked about. And then, of the defensemen, Oliver Bonk. It's going to kind of be exciting to see what happens with him. I mean, I think that there was a lot more chatter about him his first year after he drafted him, and he didn't put up the point totals last year, but it's going to be interesting to see what's with him. And then I know, and Bill can talk about it, that the Flyers seem very high on Spencer Gill and kind of some of the growth and development that he has had. Obviously, he'll be going back to juniors for another year, I would imagine. But I'm excited to kind of see how he looks. And then Hunter McDonald too. So I think there's like some really interesting forward prospects and defense prospects. And it's more guys that I can remember in a rookie camp in a while that I say to myself, man, I'm really kind of excited to see what this guy's all about.
Mm-hmm. Chef, any players
Well,
that
I
in your
would say,
spotlight?
ironically, if we're going to be talking about the players, a lot of people this year, and I'll ask this to Bill, a lot of the fans, for example, and we all know Flyer fans are very opinionated, probably one of the, I guess, generally smartest group of fans in the league as far as armchair GMs go. They thought the second round, the Flyers did a great job in the draft. And you had mentioned Nesbitt, and I want to go back to him. Is there anything you could tell us that kind of calmed the nerves out of everybody making this pick? Because much like the Luchanko pick, a lot of Flyers fans are very reserved about it, but they want it to be good. But they, again, it seems like Danny was passing up obvious players that might have been best player available,
Yeah. Well, we'll see over the next few years. He's not going to be a fast track guy. So we're not going to be talking about him getting a 9-game trial this year or next year. That being said, that the Flyers had to move up the 10 spots to get him. First of all, why was he available 22nd, or why did teams initially kind of peg him and be a guy who might be available in the lower third of the first round? A lot of that really has to do with Windsor last year. He played a ton of minutes, and then he ran out of gas in the playoffs. And then he had a pretty disappointing under 18 World Championships. So they thought, okay, well, he didn't finish well. Maybe he'll drop in the draft. But then it became apparent, and it's it's not a mystery because Barry Trotz was interviewed on TSN on the draft floor, which is just incidentally just a god awful production, and
Yeah, it was.
But at any rate, they interviewed Barry Trotz, and he said, well, we were going to move up, but the guy we wanted was taken right before we were about to trade. Well, there was only one trade made, right? Yeah. And they were going to trade up to 13th, and the Flyers grabbed him at 12th, so that kind of scuttled that trade. And then Vancouver also said, our guy is already off the board. There was a center we liked. Well, there was the last center off the board again was the Flyers guy. So is that a guarantee that Nesbitt is going to be a real impact player in the NHL? No, it's not a guarantee at all. But it does say that other teams were prepared to take him right about where the Flyers took him. If you look at where Bob McKenzie had him, and McKenzie had him ahead of where the pundits had him. And Ken McKenzie, of course, has always been so plugged in with scouting departments. He bases a lot of his rankings on what scouting heads and rank and file in the field scouts tell him. So he had him, I think, 16, 17, something like that. So he had him in the middle of the first round too. So we'll see how he develops. There's no question about his competitiveness level, his two-way ability or his hands. Those are all really good. His skating has to get a lot better. But you could have said the same thing about Tyson Forster when you drafted him. You could have said the same thing about Sean Couturier when you drafted him. So, or any other number of players. In a lot of cases where they knock a guy's skating, a lot of it really has to do with a player needing to get a little bit stronger physically. That's the case with Nesbitt because although he's tall, he's pretty lanky. So there's not a lot of power in his stride. When he fills out a little bit, add some explosiveness to it, which should it doesn't happen overnight. Takes a year. Probably take 2 more years as junior. But the Flyers really think that when you look back 5 years from now, oh wow, he was 12th. He's better than guys. A number of guys were taken ahead of him. And also in talking with some of the Flyers people as to who else they had eyes on, if Porter Marteau was not there, so they. It doesn't look like Higgins. They were going to take him, even if Marteau was already off the board. So I think O'Brien would have been their guy. Had the draft played out that way. There were some defensemen they liked, but not in that top 10 range. So things really worked out well with Marteau. I mean, I think Marteau is a really, really safe bet to be a top 6 and a really good chance of being a first line winger. And then it said then you talked about the second round of the draft Of course, a lot of these kids are going to college, all but one, all but guard or college bound. But these are really good players, and Amico in particular is the guy who, if not for the broken kneecap, he would have been a first-round pick. It's not even probably would have been. He probably would have gone around. Well, when the Flyers had the 22nd pick, that might have been right about his range, actually. Then he missed probably 3/4 of the season. That's absolutely a player to watch because you don't find many players that size who can skate the way he can, and who bring the physical element that he brings. So he's a very high upside defensive player. I don't know if he'll be much of an offensive defenseman, but that's definitely a name to watch. And pretty much around the league, they thought the Flyers did a pretty good job in not a great draft. This wasn't an A kind of a draft league wide. So relative to what was available, I think the Flyers picked a number of good guys, and we'll see a couple of them. Nesbitt being the most obvious one in this year's camp.
I do want to mention that Scott Wheeler from The Athletic, who we've had on the show and is one of my favorite prospect guys, did a redraft of the 2024 draft today, and he had Zev Bouillon going number 2 and Jett Luchanko going number 30. So
that's way low in Luchanko, and honestly, it's way low in Luchanko. I mean, Luchanko made the NHL roster out of camp last year, so he's already not number 30. Okay,
I do agree that this year's draft looks very good. I like what they did, but I think that a lot is going to also, we're going to have to see what happens with Luchanko and Bouillon. I mean, it's not surprising that Luchanko has a kind of game that kind of immediately made him sort of attractive to an NHL team. But the key with him is going to be how he develops offensively, because they passed up some pretty good players.
I mean, we can spitball this, okay? On a letter grade scale, how would you rank his skating? He's an A, right? Luchanko. He's an A. He's an A. He's exceptionally fast.
Okay.
How would you rank his playmaking ability? Probably in the B plus to A minus kind of range. He's a very good playmaking forward. He played on a horrific team with people people who couldn't. Let me say this in a nice way. But guys who couldn't score. Well, let's put it that way. On a brutal team. If you watch,
I think would be getting a little bit carried away. I mean,
no, I don't think so at all. I think he's a really, really good setup guy on a really bad team. A lot of times, guys who can, playmakers you put with guys, there's nothing on that team, Dan. There's nothing there. They were one of the worst teams anywhere in junior hockey last year. This is a very good playmaking forward. Now the concern that I have with him is that he doesn't shoot the puck nearly enough. I know he's worked on it, and he's not a scorer. He's not a goal scorer. So all the other things are there, but in terms of scoring, he's probably not going to score very much. And and not even though he's strong physically, he's still a little bit on the smaller side. So he's going to give up some size to centers because down the middle on defense, and we'll get to Bouillon for that reason in a second. Teams are going big again, right? The down at center and particularly on defense. Now with Bouillon, he should not have been the 6th defenseman drafted last year. The NHL's got a little size crazy again on defense. And Florida wins the cup and their defense is big. So now the conventional wisdom is so many teams in the NHL and the Flyers fell into this for too long themselves, is trying to win last year's cup rather than winning future cups. But now we go, you need big defensemen. That's why even though Bouillon's not small, right? But he's on the smaller side of average. So that's the reason why he was the 6th defenseman picked. In general, I think NHL scouts like him. But and I actually spoke with one not a Flyer scout though, but shortly before the draft, talking about Bouillon, and they said, well, he's a really good all-around prospect, but is he going to give you the offense of a Quinn Hughes or an Adam Fox? He's not that level offensively. Is he a shutdown defenseman? Right. Well, he's solid. He's not going to hurt you, but is he a guy you're going to want to play 28 minutes a night in a playoff game, push 30 minutes a night? He's a guy that pundits love and scouts like, but I don't think most actual NHL scouting departments would have him in a redraft second right now. And I know they wouldn't have Luchanko 30th. They might have him right about where he was picked, but I honestly think Luchanko is going to surprise some people in upcoming years. Again, not on the scoring side, but as an all-around player and a playmaker.
I mean, these are the same scouts that took Lane Hudson 62nd in the draft.
For sure. No, for sure.
I think that you're I think you just underbuild Bouillam's potential offensive contributions in the NHL a little bit. I do think that he could be, if he's the number one PP guy, I could see him doing the kind of stuff that Adam Fox has done in New York. I think Lane Hudson's a little more dynamic than Bouillam, but Bouillam's still pretty dynamic. I mean, him and Cole Hudson.
Bouillam's a very good prospect.
Yeah,
he was a very good prospect, and again, he's not little. He's just more like an average size. I mean, I like him quite a bit, but the reasons why he was the sixth defenseman picked, and again, scouts absolutely do have a size bias, and that's why Lane Hudson was picked where he was picked. The way he sees the ice, the way he starts plays, the way he can join plays. I mean, that's going to carry over. Last year was not a fluke with him. That's a great example. But I'm just saying that it's all in the perspective. And sometimes I do think that with the pundit scouts, there is a tendency to look at the skill oversized a little bit, and sometimes that's the case. But other times they go, well, there's maybe some limitations that would prevent him from being a true number one. But only time will tell. I think this is fair to say is that he's a heck of a prospect. It was kind of it was when he was right there, it was exciting. And I'll also say in terms of Luchanko, final thought that I liked Hellenius quite a bit too, and the Flyers bypassed him as well to take Luchanko. So
if I could just interject, host prerogative here. Insiders. Now, I'm not sure if you know this or not. Was there some regret that they didn't make a move for Dickinson like that? It would seem like watching Bonk, Dickinson was tailor-made for them to take, and he was like another tier above even Bonk and could be a number one defenseman. And for me, I think about Hellenius, like you just mentioned, but I also think about the lost opportunity of having San Jose just swoop in there, and that's the guy who they really wanted. Well, is that?
They talked about a couple of spaces possibly moving up, right? And they weren't quite able to pull that off. I mean, Dickinson was, the connections, particularly with Jonesy and and Dale Hunter, and he loves that London Knights program, and a lot of the Flyers scouts love the London Knights program, and you could see because look at what the team's done the last few years. There's a lot. It's easy to love a lot of players who come out of that program. So I think they would have liked to have moved up potentially if they could, and then they kind of shifted gears when they couldn't, and then figured we could move down a spot or two and get Luchanko. So we'll see. We'll see over time. I just know that if they're sticking their neck out, this is a guy they're still sticking their neck out on that they think is going to be a really, really good NHL player.
And maybe he'll be like an Adam Oates. He'll score 16 goals, but he'll have like 50 assists. Yeah. And it's not the worst thing in the world, especially with that kind of speed. What we hope, right? So, Bill, who is going to be, and Chef, I'll get to you in a second, who is actually going to be running the training camp and coaching the games? We're just curious about that. Like, what could the fans look for? Is it going to be Snowden? What's the role of Rick Tocchet in this whole thing?
Yeah, I think John Soden will be behind the bench for it. I haven't heard that officially yet, but quite often as the American League coach, he'll be coaching a lot of these guys anyway. So yeah, I think you'll see him behind the bench for it, and I think Talk will be upstairs watching.
Cool. Chef? Yeah.
Okay, since we did the Luchanko thing, let's bring it up. Well, I guess did William any reason why did the agent play any factor in not taking him? That's one. And then since we're on Luchanko, is it really the best idea to send him back to goal to down there, or if he makes any kind of decent showing? Is it better for him to play with the team at maybe 7 to 9 minutes than go back there and have nobody to play with again?
Yeah, I don't love 7 to 9 minutes, but
yeah.
But if he's playing 11, 12 minutes, that even if he's on the power play right away, he might be better. I mean, it's so easy when guys go back to junior hockey and it's not challenging enough for them. Maybe bad habits set in. They're bored down there. And I said, Guelph is still a terrible hockey team. Maybe he gets moved to a better team. They were hoping a year ago. Actually, there were all kinds of rumors that he might end up in London. Didn't happen.
Well, Guelph just named a new captain, and his name is not Luchanko.
It's not him, which does tell you something right there. That if he's back in junior, it might not be in Guelph. And I don't think there'd be a lot of people in the Flyers organization would be brokenhearted if that's the case. So yeah, and did the agent have something to do with it? Well, let's just let's do a little quick history here, right? Let's go back to 2012, and the Flyers had a verbal deal to sign Matt Carle to a new contract, handshake agreement. The next day, Matt Carle signed with Tampa Bay when he had an agreement with the Flyers because the agent went to Tampa Bay and said, we have a deal with Philadelphia. If you can top it, he's yours, right? That's after they had a handshake agreement. Who was the agent? Kurt Overhart. Okay. Now we all know the Cutter Gauthier situation. The agent, Kurt Overhart. The whole dispute with Ryan Johansson, who was the agent, Kurt Overhart. So to say that the agent had absolutely nothing to do with it, I'm sure the agent had something to do with it. I don't think it was the whole reason, but I think it had something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, if GMs in the league are like chefs, they hold grudges. So there you go.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Most human beings hold grudges, so it doesn't matter what the actual line of business is, but humans are humans.
Yeah. So we have a question from one of our watchers or listeners. Does Bill think Grons or Bump have a chance to make the Flyers out of camp?
I think that I think Bump has a very good chance. Now where they'll put him in the lineup, whether it'll be third line or whatever to start, that will remain to be seen. But I think that they are going in with this idea that he has a pretty decent chance. He's going to have a good camp if he has. We could play himself to the Phantoms, but he has a good shot. Helge Grons, I thought might have had a shot at seventh defenseman, but then they signed Juleson. And Juleson just played with Tocchet in Vancouver. Another right shot guy, seventh defenseman type. And it sounds like Grons might get a letter. He might be an alternate captain for the Phantoms. Now, I think he'll probably see more games in the NHL this year, and he earned it because he had a good year last year with the Phantoms, and he looked pretty good in his games with the Flyers. But I would say the odds are better than not he starts the year in Lehigh Valley.
Okay. So go ahead, Dan.
I just had a question for Bill. You and Jason do such a good job on your show. I was watching it earlier today, and this isn't necessarily a rookie camp related item, but you guys were talking about, some of the guys you thought might be the most improved or kind of carry some of the water this season. And one guy that I thought was interesting was you talked a little about Sean Couturier, and I thought maybe you could, have that conversation on the show and some of your thoughts about what you think we might see from Couturier heading into the season and his mental mindset and kind of how he, what he wants for this season.
Well, I think that for Coots, he'll never again be that 30 goals, 75-point player. That's just not him anymore. But he can still be about 3/4 of that player and still a very good two-way guy. So is that a number one center anymore? Well, not in a perfect world, but relative to what the roster is, that he might still be that on this team. Just your best all-around player. He will immediately have a better relationship with Rick Taka than he had with John Tortorella. John Tortorella and he didn't see eye to eye about almost anything. And, when he was named captain and then very shortly thereafter made a healthy scratch. And I know Danny will tell you from now till the cows come home that was Torts' idea to make him captain. I'll take Danny at his word, but what I'll say about that was, Torts kept saying, we're not naming a captain, we're not naming a captain, we're not naming a captain. Stop asking me, we're not naming a captain. And then they name him captain. And then he's a healthy scratch a couple weeks later. So
happens all the time. Come on.
Yeah, and he started last year, really behind the 8 ball. On the home opener, they had him on the 4th line, left wing, and Don Torto openly questioning if he could still play the pace in the NHL. It was clearly this was a player who he didn't have a lot of trust in. Now he didn't trust any of the centers, honestly, but he and Sean Couturier they just never meshed with one another. So it was not coincidental that when the Flyers hired Talk, and there was video capturing who was the first player that they called.
Yeah.
Right on camera. Yeah, it was their captain, right? So I think that right off the bat they want to establish a more positive relationship. And I also thought that Sean Couturier's comments on the radio, where he said, "I'm tired of losing," and he meant it. Like it wasn't just something you say for like. He's sick of it. He doesn't care how many points he gets. He doesn't play how many minutes he gets. He really wants to help the team get further. Now, it's going to take more than Sean Couturier to get there. Let's be realistic. But I do think that Sean Couturier is in for probably as long as he's healthy, in for his best season since the back surgeries.
Yeah, that
and
was,
then when we sign McDavid next offseason, he can slide in behind him as the 2C.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, McDavid will have to compete for his spot, but you know how it is. But that was a little bit staged. The whole thing with Couturier letting him know that Rick Taka was the coach. But
it was necessary.
Nobody's an actor there. Put it that way.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Coots is not the most, Coots is not the most enthusiastic guy to begin with. So it's like you've got your new coach, you're calling a player, and for the TV, you kind of want it to be, oh, that's great, but that's not really Coots.
That's not Sean's personality. No. And Sean's a super good guy. I mean, just pretty laid back, pretty easygoing, very honest kind of guy. But no, he's not Mr. Enthusiasm. That's
definitely not. So, Bill, just shifting gears a little bit, what can you tell us about the, I guess you call it a minor league trade? The Flyers acquire Tucker Robertson from Seattle, and they let go of JR Avon back the other way. It seems like organizationally, at least from the AHL perspective, it's a real fit for the respective needs of the organizations.
Yeah, it's fascinating trade. Because you don't often see two guys who were not just junior teammates, but junior line mates traded for one another a couple of years later. They played together in Peterborough, and Avon being the more well-rounded two-way guy, both very good skaters, both speedy guys, both 22 years old. At the OHL level, Robertson was more of a goal scorer, and I said Avon was a little bit more of a well-balanced 200-foot guy at that level. Both guys have had some ups and downs so far at the pro level. The funny thing with Avon, though, he was an ace, an absolute ace in shootouts for the Phantoms. I think he started his career 4 for 5 in shootouts, and had another. I mean, that's the one thing. Yeah, of course, that won't ever show in the playoffs, but that was something that he did pretty well. And last year they moved him from center back to wing because he can play either one. He didn't really advance much in year 2, and Robertson has really kind of struggled to find his footing. As a pro, he spent a little bit of time in the ECHL, sometime in Coachella Valley as well, and he spent the whole year in the American League, but he was kind of in and out of the lineup. Avon was really kind of out of favor by the end of the year, so it's 2 players who still have some upside to them. It's a really cool trade because of their history together, and I mean, if it can ever click with Robertson, the main thing he at least showed an ability to do is score some goals. So that's I'm fascinated to see how that trade turns out. Chef,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the elephant in the room with the Phantoms. Where the heck is Kosov going to end up? I don't see him on the rookie camp roster. That's one. I have a source that said he's not going to be back here till October 4th. That puts it right at like camp, right? Or right into camp. Camp is already underway.
Yeah.
What are the Flyers a little concerned about all this?
Well, I think they have to be till he's actually physically in camp, right? The word is still they expect him. He's under contract. He can't go to the KHL because, yes, we saw what happened with Fedotov, right? Where which was they kind of twisted his arm and made an example out of him. Oh well, he's Ivan wanted to come to the NHL. That's why he signed the contract, right?
Yeah.
And then he finds himself conscripted into the military, and then okay, well, you get out of your military service, but you're going back to the KHL for a year, or at least a year. And he hasn't been the same player since either. Yeah. So it's So with Kolosov, though, he's not a high-profile enough player, even in the KHL, that teams are really going to want to stick their neck out and battle it out for him. There's Minsk, Belarus, but they brought in a guy who played in the NHL the year before that, so they weren't dying to have him back. We saw flashes of potential from him, but he really hurt himself by how late he came, and then he really needed time in the American League. He was not ready for the NHL by any stretch of the imagination. And I think a lot of times in the KHL, they fill players' heads with the idea that going to the American League is like a demotion, compared to playing in the KHL. Well, there are players in the KHL that are better than AHL players, for sure. There's some in the KHL who are NHL caliber players. But the average KHL player, that's fairly comparable to an American League player, and the lesser players in the league are more like ECHL players. It's a weird league in that regard because there's a wide array of talent in that league. The competition varies a lot, and sometimes it's hard to figure out rhyme or reason as to how some of their lineups work out and who gets favored and who doesn't. But if Kolosov wants a career in North America, and I don't know that he does. I think to him, it's always it's either I'm in the NHL or I'm not interested. But you have to prove it, right? You have to earn it. If he does end up coming in October, who's he hurting there? He's not getting a job with the Flyers, and he might be the third goalie in Lehigh Valley by that point.
Or he might be looking at ECHL.
ECHL, yeah. If you remember Ustamenko, who was a kid with actually had a great work ethic, but he ended up in the ECHL, and he put in his time and worked as hard as he could. He just couldn't really advance beyond it. But I don't really understand what makes Kolosov tick so much. And generally speaking, he's just a guy who keeps to himself a lot, even with a lot of the other Russian players. It's not that he's a bad guy, but he's just a
loner.
A little bit of a loner type, right? So, which
Now, was his conditioning a question? It looked like he was a little slow when he came up. So, I mean, I didn't think he had the best condition. It looked like he was winded by the end of periods a lot of times.
I think that's fair. That's fair, Chef, because I thought there were games where he started out really well, and then as you got into the latter 30 minutes of the game, particularly the end by the end of the second period and throughout the third, he'd get off his angles. His glove would start to drop. The things you see of a goalie that's not in great condition.
Fatigued, yep.
Yeah, fatigue kind of stuff. So I would hope that he's in camp on time and reporting there. I'm not going to read too much of it in rookie camp, but if he's not there on the ice the next day, by the end of next week when NHL camp is starting, he's really just putting in time till he goes home. So you might as well just send him to the ECHL and cut your losses.
Yeah.
Enjoy Reading. Bill, there's really three players that I'm kind of interested in with this rookie camp and going forward in the AHL. One is trying to salvage his career and move forward in Samu Tuamala. And the other two, Denver Barkey, the size issue with him and how can he overcome, even just at the pro level, let alone the NHL level. And Carson Bjarnason, who has all the ingredients to be a solid NHL goaltender from a physical standpoint. And where does it go and how long is it going to take from there?
Yeah, well, we'll start with Samu. Samu Tuamala, it looked like he turned a corner a couple of years ago. Had a really good first half, not last season, but the season before that. Actually played in the American League All-Star game. Went through stretches where he was scoring in bunches, and then he ran out of gas a little bit, and then he had a pretty disappointing year. He did not progress last year, and he's absolutely playing for his career in North America. He's had such weird development, Isaiah, because I mean, if you remember, he went right to the American League after he was drafted. He bypassed the OHL and then went right to the American League. He was in over his head. He went back to Finland, but he was kind of in over his head in the top league there, and it took a while to find his footing. He had to go down a level there. Came up to the Phantoms because he looked like he had progressed, turned a corner, and he got up to that great start and hasn't done much since then. So what to expect from him, I don't know. But I do know that where we were having this conversation a year ago, with guys with an outside shot of making the team, he's not one of those guys at this point. So he's got a lot to prove. Maybe under Snowden, he gets up to a great start and just rolls from there and he gets his name back in the mix. So, but right now, and Flyers have had too many of those guys where they would show something 1 year in the American League and then go backwards. Denwaya being another example,
right?
Who had that great first year. He actually had more goals than Tyson Forster. He led the Phantoms in goal scoring that year. Played some games in the NHL and looked like he was not really knocking on the door. And then he went backwards after that. He's not even in the organization anymore. They didn't qualify. So, so I'm not really sure, where he goes with that. Bjarnason, I don't think he'll come in starting for the Phantoms right away. I think they'll ease him in. Whether they'll have two goalies there, whether they'll have
right.
three goalies there, I don't know. Whether he might see a little bit of time with Reading. Goalies are a little bit different than position players in of the fact that a little time in the ECHL need not be the end of the world. Look at Jonathan Quick. He went down to the ECHL to start his career, and he turned out just fine. Sometimes in the ECHL, because there's not very good structure defensively, where in the ECHL you still have guys who could shoot the puck. That's not it's not shooting generally that puts the guy in the ECHL. It's skating, it's hockey sense, it's things like that. So sometimes in the ECHL a goalie gets really tested. Maybe sometimes he would more in a structured league. So sometimes that's good for development. But where Carson will end up being this year remains to be seen. But over time, over time, I do think he has at least the physical makeup of a future NHL goalie. But again, we'll have to see over the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So, and of course, Barkey, he's just, if he can just stay healthy and we get a good year or two in the AHL, we'll have a much better handle on what's going with him. So
I'm really excited to see Barkey. I think that.
Oh, Barkey, yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Barkey. I mean, I think that obviously he's a leader. He was a captain of that very talented London Knights team. I think he's just kind of has that it factor where I think he's going to carve out an NHL career for himself despite the size concerns. And I'm just sort of excited to see. I think there's a lot of upside with him. And I can't wait to see how he develops. I mean, he's not a guy that we're expecting to be a first or second liner in the NHL, right? But I think that there is that possibility, and we know he's got the character. We know he's got a lot of the intangibles. So he continues to be a guy that I'm very intrigued in seeing how he develops as a professional.
It's so easy sometimes to write off that smaller player, but that's a player who just an absolute nonstop motor. He won't be a 100-point guy like he was in the OHL, but I agree with you that he's not necessarily going to be a bottom of the lineup guy either. He might be a guy who starts out lower in the lineup and works his way up and works his way up and works his way up. Then all of a sudden he's in your top six, right? That was the career path of Marchand. He wasn't pegged as being a top of the lineup guy. That's just a guy who kept working and agitating, and all of a sudden had the opportunity and he ran with it. Barkey, as you said, was a team leader. Even back in his draft year, if you look at the OHL playoffs that year, Hunter just kept sending him over the boards in all situations in that postseason. And captain a Memorial Cup team, et cetera, back-to-back OHL championships on a very good, very deep hockey team. Was one of the premier penalty killers anywhere in junior hockey. Always a shorthanded threat, and just always playing with his heads up. Always just going all out on every shift. So those guys will always have a chance. And we talked about carrying grudges before. He was cut back-to-back years. Was one of the last cut from Team Canada. And I thought, honestly, he outplayed guys that beat him out on that roster. So that's a player who I think that in the pro level has actually had a pretty decent chance to make a name for himself. Whether that's top 9 or wherever you put him in the lineup, ultimately, I think he's going to be a good player.
Yeah, we have one of our listeners, Vineet Singh, and we appreciate him watching us tonight, talking about comparing him to Connor Garland, who's, I believe, on, is it Utah?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So,
but
I don't know.
I would say it sounds a lot like a Sammy Kapanen kind of player right there.
Yeah. That's
hardworking,
guy, motor, yeah, etc.
Woody Acton maybe too, same way.
Yeah, good speed.
Yeah. He was a very useful player. So before we move on, I just want to remind everybody that we're brought to you also by Jim's South Street, 400 South Street in Philadelphia. 40 years of the best cheesesteaks, hoagies, and fries in the grandest Philadelphia tradition. You know you want one. So you got to get down there. Jim South Street, 400 South Street in Philadelphia, PA. And with that, Bill, I'd like to shift gears because like an all-time great in the NHL, Ken Dryden passed away. I think he was 78 years old, and he had been fighting a cancer battle. A remarkable career. He was actually drafted in 1964 by the Bruins, and maybe you know more details about how he was traded or he went back into the draft. I don't know how it worked, how he actually got to the Canadiens. And the thing that strikes me about him is he won 6 cups in 8 years or something like that. He unseated a Stanley Cup championship goalie in Rogie Vachon. And kind of like we all kind of are more familiar with Patrick Waugh's miracle goaltending in 1986. He willed that team to the cup that year. Ken Dryden did something very similar in 1971, and then he comes back the next year and he wins Rookie of the Year because he didn't even qualify. Maybe you could expand on the greatness of Ken Dryden.
Yeah, he won the Conn Smythe before he won the Calder, which is crazy. Patrick Waugh, of course, did something similar too in '86. Not but he came up in the playoffs and backstopped them to a Stanley Cup. But no, I mean Dryden was such an economy of motion. He was a big goalie, especially for his era. Everybody played a stand-up style back then.
Yeah.
Never flopped, was never, and then, I mean, I've heard people say, well, anybody could have won the Stanley Cup behind the defense that they had, right? Savard, Lapointe, Larry Robinson, and then with the talent they had up front. And maybe, would they have won that many cups? I don't know, because what happens in the playoffs is, goalies find their level a lot of times. Could they have won cups with Bunny LaRocque in net, for example, who was his backup and briefly played for the Flyers years later? Maybe. LaRocque was a good goalie. Was he a great goalie? Was he Ken Dryden? No. And then look at the 76 Cup final where it was Dryden against Wayne Stevenson. Wayne Stevenson was also a good goalie. Was he Bernie Perrant? No. Montreal swept that series. And every game in that series was a 1-goal game, except for the final game of the series. And that was a 2-goal game, but that was because they scored a real late one, in game 4. Dryden was everything he was cracked up to be, and of course was an extremely intelligent guy. As for how he ended up in Montreal, he ended up playing in college, going to law school, and and therefore, and they were so deep, so like he just had the opportunity to, after Cornell, to sign with Montreal. But talk about embarrassment of riches rather, not Richards. Embarrassment of riches. They had Tony Esposito in Montreal. There was no place for him. So Montreal, that tradition of goaltending. The Vezina Trophy is named after a Canadiens goalie.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. Jacques Plante, Dryden. Many years later, Carey Price, etc. So Montreal has that great tradition of goaltending, but Dryden, Dryden was everything he was cracked up to be. I'll only add to that. Of course, Dryden was, as I said, he was a very, very intelligent man. I'll tell you that some of the Broad Street bully guys didn't really like him. I would say, I think it was about in 2020. He wrote an editorial in the Wall Street Journal, which was politically tinged.
Yeah.
And not to go into Ken's politics or whatever, but it was basically saying the Broad Street bullies were aligned with everything that was bad in this world, and they didn't appreciate it that much. And he didn't give the team the credit where it was due. So I think if you polled some of the Broad Street bullies guys, that Ken Dryden might not be their favorite NHL alum ever, but no one will take away from his greatness as a player.
Yeah,
the original. No one likes us, and we don't care.
Yeah, definitely that. Yeah, the real, the veritable. We don't. No one likes us. We don't care. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of Bill Bradley, the basketball player. He's a real intelligent guy. I think that maybe Dryden did have an air that Bill Bradley did not have. And they were both politically active and all that. And whether you agreed or not, you recognize the intellect and that they had a contribution off the ice. And I appreciated that, even though I probably didn't agree with some of the things he said. But hey, it's all about the game. And he was absolutely fantastic.
Which is speaking of the game, that's a fantastic book. If you ever have the chance, and Dryden did not do that with the ghostwriter. He wrote that himself, cover to cover. So definitely read it. Because he did think both on and off the ice on a very high level, and and physically was great because he almost never committed himself first, right? He always made the shooter fight first. So, and he was also very good at reading off his defensemen. Something Bernie Perron was very good at too, knowing this guy's a right-handed shooter, and he likes to shoot, say, to top corner on this side, right, or shoot low, shooting for a rebound. Particularly back in the stand-up days,
right.
Most guys did shoot low. He read that so well. Like even if you go back and watch old video from that time period, you could see how well he played his angles and to why he was as dominant as he was.
Yeah, it helps also to have been 6'4" too. So that was it was a freak back in those days, that's for sure. Yeah. So, Bill, you have a lot of great articles at NHL.com in the Flyers section, particularly where to follow all the various Flyers prospects, in Europe, in the NCAA, in the CHL. And then you're doing some great work also on Hockey Hot Stove. And you had an article about Carey Price and what happened with the trading of his salary and the possibility of something like that, if not this year, maybe next year could happen with Ryan Ellis. Maybe you could share some of your thoughts in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. Well, next year is finally the last year of that contract. A big part of the reason why that contract has been just almost impossible to move to a team with the cap floor. Well, there's obviously the term part of it. The other part of it too, if you look at the way Carey Price's contract was structured, there was a little bit backdiving in terms of year-to-year actual salary. And the way the salary worked in the final year this year, there was only a $2 million base salary. So most of his final installment on his signing bonus was paid on July 1st. So there's only $2 million owed to him. But it's $10 million of cap space for a team that's desperate to get to the cap floor or barely the cap floor. That's a great situation. It's a $2 million contract, but $10 million of cap hit. So that's how they were able to move it. Maybe a year from now, the Flyers can move it. Is it impossible this year? They could work something like that. It's not impossible, but it's much harder for that reason. And I compared. Remember the movie Bronx Tale with Eddie Mush, right? Yeah. So poor Chuck Fletcher was the Eddie Mush of NHL general managers because even when he got something that looked like a winner, it just turned to mush, right? Yeah. Like and
put him in the bedroom. I don't want that guy looking at my NHL team. Put him in the bedroom.
Yes, exactly. So, but anyway, we only saw him for 3 games because the 4th game he played, he didn't even finish that one.
Right.
But for those 3 games he played, Ryan Ellis looked like the Flyers' best defenseman, and boy did he and Ivan Provorov look like they were going to be a great duo.
Yeah.
It looked like the best defenseman the Flyers had since Kimmo Timonen, and then he never played again.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So before we leave the kids and the discussion about that, I forgot to ask you about the Happy Valley Showdown, and that's going to feature Michigan State with Porter Martone and Penn State, Gavin McKenna, who's these are, Gavin McKenna is like this year's consensus number 1 going into the year. We never know how that ends up. It could change, but right now Gavin McKenna looks like a real star. And these are going to be 2 of the best, probably top 10 in the NCAA. It's really exciting. This is something that the Flyers and Penguins fans wanted to do, and maybe this will pave the way.
Yeah. They're doing, of course, the men's team and the women's team both have outdoor games, and I mean, it's been rumored enough times there would be a Flyers Penguins Winter Classic at in Happy Valley. I think that would be the coolest thing to actually see that. Of course, they did in Michigan, too, in the big house in Michigan. You're not going to see a damn thing if you're covering the game, but it's just a spectacle and being part of all of it. I was not at the Winter Classic in Boston, but I was at the one they had here. I covered the Stadium Series games too, it's not. Again, from a media standpoint, it's kind of hard to see sometimes, and from the fans, it all depends on where you are physically there. But the spectacle of it, the drama of it, is amazing. I mean, if that comes to pass over time, and that's one heck of a precursor too. Martone against McKenna. I mean, doesn't get much better than that. So
Yeah, that would really be exciting.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about it too. Like, if you believe all the conspiracy theory people, that's where he's going. He's going to Pittsburgh, so you're going to have more. McKenna going to Pittsburgh. The Flyers have McDavid and all that. In 2 or 3 years, that rivalry is going to be ridiculous again, Bill. I mean, I go back and I just look at Penn's Flyers, and it's just some of the games were ridiculous. The shift, somebody had it all over Twitter today. And, what the NHL can stand to do from this when they see this game is they need to learn from it, because they don't capitalize enough, in my opinion, on getting newer fans in. And when you see something like this where, I'm not talking about like 150 penalty minute game. I'm just talking about good, solid hockey, right? Checking like it was. And then, when it got to the playoffs, it got a little bit nastier, but so be it, But NHL has a hard time at marketing itself. Speaking of shooting themselves in the foot, they kind of do that a lot too.
Yeah, I think you said it all right there. They have a unique ability sometimes to pull defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah.
You mean like the draft?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yes, that's for sure.
Yes. So, I guess there was one other thing with the NHL. They had some rule changes. Some of them are going to kick in this year. Unfortunately, we were talking earlier about Jett Luchanko. It does not appear that the 19-year-old exception, where each team can pick one 19-year-old to go and play in the AHL, which previously was not allowed, that will not happen this year.
That's correct. Yeah. The CHL has to agree with it. It'll happen for next year, but it sounds like it's not going to be re-brought up again until next June. And I mean, I understand where the CHL is coming from it, because with the NCAA loosening their rules, they're already losing talent. But on the flip side, with a guy like Luchanko, who's almost certainly ready for the American League, and almost certainly beyond playing in the CHL right now, but maybe is not NHL ready, that an intermediate step could be actually beneficial to him. The team, his NHL organization wants it. If you go into yesterday's Flyers Daily podcast, that I really kind of gave some of the history of it and how that rule came to be. To me, it's a very antiquated rule, but the one exemption looks like it'll be a year from now, unfortunately for the Flyers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tough one, because it looks like that it would be a good spot for him. Of course, we have to get Jett healthy and make sure, that groin thing, how Bill, we've been watching this game. That's a kind of injury. If baby it in the very beginning and make sure it's behind you, it can linger all year and could hinder his development progress in general.
Oh yeah. If that, as you said, it could keep recurring, and then it becomes something he battles all year long. That's why you're better off just not taking any chances. Even if you have to sit around both rookie games this year, so be it. It's more important that he's healthy for the NHL part of camp and for the season.
I mean, acknowledging that I don't know exactly what the groin issue is that he has. I mean, it seems like a lot of these guys who have the groin procedures eventually, I mean, sometimes it takes them 2 years to get back to where they were. I mean, you look at Shane Gostisbehere, Claude Giroux, Bobby Brink, it takes these guys a long time to get back. So again, maybe it's just some kind of minor strain he's got or something, but I agree that taking it a little easy is probably the better course.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So before I just ask you about the vets coming in real briefly, and we'll let you go. You have a new partnership with a site called Cap Wages. And is this very similar to the uninitiated to Puckpedia?
Yes. Very, very similar kind of site. what I always find interesting sometimes is, because actual open cap space depends on how you calculate the roster. So they might calculate it one player different or whatever, but it works by the same idea. We were able to embed the basic data for the league and for each team. But then if you want to really break it down player by player, they have a tremendous website, and we're thrilled to partner with those guys and really good guys too. So it's we're excited for that. If you go on Hockey Hot Stove and click the cap tracker on the top, you can see for the whole league and for the Flyers. And then if you want to go in and look at each individual player, you can click that and it will take you to their site.
Yeah, capwages.com, but you can go there right through Hockey Hot Stove. That is a portal to everything you need to know about the NHL and some of the best opinion writers on for each particular team. Yeah, how many? Yeah, have most of the league slots filled in, or a couple more to go?
We still have a few more to go. A lot of the West Coast teams, we're trying to fill up like LA, for example. Colorado is a prominent market that we still want to fill that. Most of the Eastern teams are filled, but like Columbus is a team we still want to have. So we have some people that are doubling up on coverage, but ultimately we want to have people with their boots on the ground as much as possible. So that's something that we're still working towards getting to. But like the Metro Division, we have somebody that's there for every team, and we have a number of writers too that are have season credentials in the different cities too. So that's pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, it's a really fun website, and it's just getting better all the time. So I guess the final thing for me is the Flyers exhibition schedule. It starts on Sunday, September 21st. So a week from this upcoming Sunday. So do we have a firm date when the vets actually officially report to training camp?
Well, the team has not officially announced it as of yet, but I would figure that 3 days on the ice and then the first exhibition game, or 2 days on the ice, and then you have a practice group, and then you have the morning skate group, which is what you have a lot of times too. So, just spitballing it. And we'll see a week from now, but I would say the 17th or the 18th would be the likely day.
Gotcha. Yeah, I always wonder why they it's not like NFL. Everything's carved in stone, and NHL. Oh yeah, we're gonna do training camp tomorrow. So, kind of silly like that. But
it does look like a lot of guys are here already, though.
Oh yeah.
So by judging by all that, so it's not an issue of showing up. Well, so that's a good thing at least.
Yeah, definitely. So that was the last one from me. If you guys want to chime in with any of your last questions for Bill, we can have him on his way, because we certainly know, Bill, you are everywhere, whether it's NHL.com, writing for them, of course, Hockey Hot Stove, and you're on with Jason at least once a week, and you're a frequent guest on so many podcasts.
Yeah, it's always great seeing Bill. And whenever I go to the Flyers games, I try to meet up with him, and my mom loves talking to him, so it's always nice talking to Bill. And I have one question, again, stemming off of what you talked about with Jason Martinez today. One of the guys who I think could be the most improved on the team this year, and it's because he's sort of coming off hopefully a healthy offseason where he didn't have to deal with any kind of groin or midsection issues, is Jamie Drysdale. And he also, to me, looks like he's put on a little bit of weight in a good way. What are your thoughts on him kind of going into the season?
Dan, I think this is crucial here for Jamie Drysdale. Absolutely crucial. On the one part, staying healthy, but the other hand too, if this power play is going to go anywhere, Cam York, we'll see some time on there as well, and we'll see what he does with that. But Drysdale wasn't drafted where he was drafted. They didn't make the 1-for-1 trade with anything other in mind, that he was going to use that speed that he has, and he's always been more about offensive potential than actual offensive contribution. He'll tease with it. You'll see flashes of what he can do. I really thought, and Jason talked about at some length, that game against Anaheim in Philly was kind of a jump-off point for him. Certainly his best game as a Flyer. And then he seemed to gain some confidence from that. So absolutely, staying healthy. And if he has a year where he wins the Pelle Lindbergh Award, where he's in the conversation for the Barry Ashby Trophy, then I think you're looking at a better hockey team. Yeah. As a result of it too. So I think he's a critical guy, and he is a great candidate to be the most improved for sure.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Chef?
I think I'm good. I think we got it. I mean, I was going to ask about York. Is he the best pairing partner for Sanheim?
I think as of right now he is. Yeah. I don't know who else I put with him right now. I think that. And I expect a bounce back year from York too. Last year was a pretty disappointing year. Certainly, I think he's another guy who'll benefit from the change behind the bench too. So
definitely. So Bill, why don't you tell the folks if for whatever I didn't mention, where people can catch up with you on social and some things that you're working on?
Well, let's see. I'll just do the quick version. I said it's fine. Find me every day on hockeyhotstove.com. Have a bunch of training camp countdown things at PhiladelphiaFlyers.com. The Flyers alumni, we just took a trip to Ireland, which was a fantastic time. We're doing an alumni newsletter kind of recapping all the cool stuff we did this summer and what's to follow over the upcoming year. And last but not least, I helped Dave the Hammer Schultz with his book. I was one of two co-writers. I helped him on the hockey parts of it, and the other co-author did most of the off-ice stuff in Dave's story. So the book is called Hammered, and that's coming out the end of October.
Ah, fantastic.
Excellent.
Yeah, I can wait for that one. Bill, thanks so much for coming on, and I hope to see you. That we'll see you on the O&B Puckcast down the road very soon.
Anytime, guys. My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Bill. It's great.
Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, that's the Tom show. Anyway.
What do we have, a producer you're hiding, Isaiah? Are you hiding a producer somewhere?
Actually, it's total amateur hour. Let's be honest. Yeah, it's like when you said something about Scott Wheeler and Luchanko. I was going to give you this one. Shots fired.
Yep.
Anyway. Yes. I'm going to have a good time, and nobody will watch the show anymore. Anyway, so let's get some last statements before we call the night. And Chef, you go ahead.
Well, I think finally we're getting some local hockey back. Some young kids. Like I said before, remember they're kids. They're a lot of these rookies here are just starting off their careers, or some are trying to have the turning point in their hockey career, basically, whether or not they're going to be professionals or not. So just enjoy it. Enjoy some the fact that we got hockey back, and and then next week we'll be talking camp. So that's awesome too. So anytime you want to talk to me or any of the other guys here, just hit us up on Twitter. You can get me at Chef to Left B on X. Chef to Left B on X.
You got it, Dan. Your last thoughts.
I'm just starting to get excited again for hockey coming up. The rookie camp will be exciting. I mentioned I traded in my fantasy keeper league. I got Trevor Zegras and Dan Vladar on my team. Made a big traded some draft capital. So I keep coming back to last year. We were all so excited to see Mishkov. It feels to me like there's not kind of that level of excitement for this season, especially since a lot of fans think this might be kind of like the last season of the rebuild before we kick it into gear next offseason. But I'm excited to see Zegras and what he can do in a Flyers uniform. So that's the thing I'm excited about the most.
Yeah, I agree. Zegras is could be a game changer. but at least it was worth a shot. You had nothing to lose by making that deal. I'd make it 100 times out of 100. Yeah, good point. So, and people can follow you at dsilver88 in case I missed that one. Yes. It's also on Blue Sky as well. So you can follow the O&B Puckcast on several podcast platforms. Of course, we're on YouTube, and we appreciate the like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Really appreciate it. We're also on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, TuneIn, and Amazon Audible. And you can follow us on Facebook. We interact there, and we stream live most of the time. You can just type O&B Puckcast and it'll pop right up for you. So if you could follow, subscribe to these platforms, whatever applies, we really do appreciate it. Moves us up the charts when people are looking for Philadelphia Flyer podcast. So that's all we have for you tonight. Next week, we're going to do a training camp preview with Jason Martinez. We're looking forward to that. We'll be streaming that live as well. And until then, everybody, and I got to get everything all set up now. Take care.